And the meeting's live.
Welcome everyone tonight. It's roughly a little bit past 6:30, Thursday, June 11th, 2020, and this is the meeting of the Williamsport City Council, re-meeting remotely by Zoom tonight. We'll move to item 1 on the agenda, approval of City Council minutes dated 5/28/20. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from council members? Hearing none, we'll have the roll taken, or the vote taken, please. Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz, Mrs. Katz,
My mute's, yes.
You're good.
Mr. Allison.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. And
I'm here, Bonnie, or Janice. Yes,
Mr. Banks. Sorry.
yes.
Now motion passes 5-0. I'll just mention for the public that Mr. Councilman Mackey and Councilwoman Mealy will not be present tonight. We'll move to item 2, limited courtesy of the floor, and we've had no requests, correct? So we will move to we're going to move item 8 up in the agenda, former lot consolidation. And Mr. Nar will handle this and the next 2 items. Welcome, Mr. Nar.
Good evening, President Allison, members of council. What we have before you is the former Mr. Fulmer of Fulmer's Water Hauling is requesting to do a lot consolidation. He currently has the properties located at 2864. There's 2 parcels. He is looking at combining those parcels so that he can future develop it. Just to give council an idea, that it is the former Marino restaurant that's up there right around the corner near the post office. So he's consolidating these 2 parcels as one to create his business and locate a land development plan there. It has been reviewed by both Lycoming County as well as the city planning. On Lycoming County comments that you do have, the maps the plans that you do have in front of you are the corrected copy. So they have already addressed the comments by the county. And again, it was reviewed by both Lycoming County planning as well as city planning and passed with a positive recommendation to council.
Thank you, Mr. Nar. Was this reviewed in Public Works?
This doesn't go through any
Oh,
committee.
that's great. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It goes
My
to
bad.
planning.
Yes. Questions or comments from council tonight? Mrs. Katz?
Gary, you did say that they addressed all the 3 points, right?
Yes, the plans that you have in front of you are the corrected copies, and they have addressed both in the lot consolidation as well as the land development that the county comments made.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. I just want to reiterate that.
No other questions from council? Then we'll take the vote. Mrs. Frank?
Did we have a motion?
Oh, we need a motion. You're right. Is there a motion in a second?
So move.
Second,
Now we can vote. Thank you. You're muted, Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder, Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Mr. Banks,
yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. We'll move to item 7 then. Fulmer Land Development.
what we present to you is Mr. Fulmer is requesting a land development plan to construct a 60 by 80 service building to include an office and water tanks. It is located in the ML zoning district. Basically what he is, again, like I said, he's basically developing and putting his business there. The plans were reviewed by both county as well as city planning. And again, to reiterate and explain what Mrs. Katz was saying earlier is that those comments by county have been corrected. The plans that you have are the corrected copies. So everything has been corrected by the county's comments as well as the planning. Both of them gave positive recommendation. And again, what it is it's in the ML. It's currently, it went before you guys for the demo of the building itself. So the building has already been demoed. He's just looking at constructing a service building and water tanks to basically operate his business within the city of Williamsport. And again, it went through both planning and county, but passed with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Nar. Is there a motion and a second on this from council?
So moved.
Move.
second,
We have a motion and a second. Questions? Anyone? Mrs. Katz?
Mr. Rife, Joel Rife, can you hear me?
I think he's muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
What this is doing is service buildings and water tanks. What kind of business is this going to be?
He already has the business in place. I'm not exactly sure which address or location he's working out of, but this is a potable water that used for its filling up residential like swimming pools and that kind of stuff. And it's not a bottling company and it's not frack water. It's just people that need water for various reasons. It's just a potable water source that he'll store on location. He purchases it, through the water meter from the city and then distributes it to some residential and commercial properties.
You must be doing well this year with pools.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's the only question. I really wanted to know what kind of business it was. And I
Yeah.
think for the public to know.
It has nothing to do with frack water. Again, it's all drinking water, which is designed for basically, he basically hauls water for different businesses that have that access, pool waters, those type of things.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rife.
Mr. Bennett?
So I looked it up just now. It looks like the business is located up in Grimesville, so it'll be good to have him in the city limits now. So,
Yeah.
Welcome to the city.
You're
Other-
muted.
Other comments or questions? Or did? That's a good location for that business, easy access to the Beltway and to get different places. So, okay, thank you, Mr. Nar and Mr. Wright. We'll have the vote. Mrs. Frank, please.
Mr. Yoder,
yes,
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. And we'll move to item number 9, certificate of appropriateness, banners for Lycoming College. Mr. Nar.
Okay. What we present to you is a request from Lycoming College to locate 6 banners. You do have images of what the banners will look like. The location of these banners will be located, again, as part of the Lycoming College 3rd Street Gateway Program, or between 3rd Street and 4th Street on Basin Street. You do have a map showing that there's 6 poles. There's the city lighted poles there on Basin Street, and they're requesting to place those banners. Because again, it's in the central business district. It does require a certificate of appropriateness. The colors are generally blue and gold, and you do have those images in front of you. If it's approved by council as far as their certificate of appropriateness, they will work with the City Streets and Parks Division as far as placing those banners along there. Now, they do own the property to the west on Basin Street, and they're just requesting basically to go through the certificate of appropriateness.
Thank you, Mr. Nar. Question, can we have a motion in a second?
So move.
second,
Second.
Now, any discussion or questions from council members? Mr. Paloozy?
Just a quick comment. I think the banners will look absolutely great. That new building that was constructed and that new gateway is great.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, I was pushing my space bar. All I want to say was I think it's going to look great. That new building looks, I think it looks phenomenal.
Thanks so much.
We really appreciate all Lycoming's done. It's amazing. Mr. Banks?
So just refresh my memory, the map shows the old alignment of the street. Are these centrally located in that new median?
Correct.
Okay, that was all. I'm happy you're doing it. Anything to beautify that area of town's great.
Thank you so much.
Any other comments from council tonight? Hearing or seeing none? Mrs. Frank on the vote, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank, and thank you, Chip.
Thank you all. We are grateful for the partnership and look forward to continuing this good work together. Thank you very much.
We as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nar.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move back up to item number 3, resolution amending the mayor's proclamation. Would you just read that in short form, please, Mrs. Frank?
Resolution to further extend the proclamation of the mayor from March 13th, 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
Okay. We have this ongoing resolution, which is an integral part of the history of the city, at least we're treating it as such. So I think it boils down to how we handle moving into the green. Do we want to amend this resolution further, or would it be more judicious to just end the resolution and say we're in the green? We need to just have that discussion briefly, and I'll just open the floor up for comments from council members. Mr. Banks.
So the real question is, after the events of the last 24 hours at the legislature, if we let this expire, what actions, what might we need to take in the future if there's a spike in cases locally, if it's not being attended to by the governor? That's my one concern. I don't see any problem with letting it expire. Has anyone talked to a solicitor? Is there a solicitor present?
Not directly on this, I don't believe. Mr. Lubin?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Could you give us any kind of opinion on this? Is uncharted territory, things we're dealing with.
Uncharted, for everyone, especially with the legislature and the governor at loggerheads over, whether or not the governor's resolution continues into the future. If this lapses and there's a spike, we could always adopt a new resolution if this were to expire. All this does, though, is if you continue it, it continues the emergency powers that are allotted to a city or allocated to a city during an emergency. If something were to come up all of a sudden, there would have to either be an emergency hearing or meeting, or mayor can issue the proclamation subject to council approval.
What does Mayor Slaughter, do you have some thoughts on that, given Mr. Lubin's?
No, I mean, I guess if we were to see a spike or a sudden increase, I could, do the proclamation again, and like you just said, and do it that way, and have council approval on an emergency meeting or whatever the case, whatever the quickest way would be if we needed to do it, quickly.
Mrs. Katz?
Yes, I think since we're already in the green at this point, I don't think there's any need for the proclamation at this point. Things are opening up. The chamber put their table and chairs out in front of the building, around their building. People are enjoying the socializing, the distancing, the socializing, but they're out there and people are excited to get back to some sort of normal life. We're looking forward, and I talked to the mayor about this, about getting First Friday started up again. We should start getting some positives back into our city so people feel more comfortable of what they're doing. So I see no reason to continue the proclamation.
Okay, Mrs. Katz. Mr. Yoder?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Councilwoman Katz, and I can tell you from the business end of this, and trying to adapt to the various different levels of colors. Once we got into the green phase, there's a lot of different information out there, and I've even, at least myself, going through things, seen a little bit of a contradiction with the information that's come out of the governor's office. I think at this phase, as we reopen, we probably would be better off allowing ourselves some local flexibility to ensure we're doing things right, but not putting ourselves in a position where we're having to deal with conflicting information and adding an added burden to ourselves. So I would agree with Mrs. Katz. I don't think we need this at this point. We have the tools in place if we run into a spike between Mayor Slaughter, emergency meetings with council. I think we're okay at this point.
Thank you. Ms. Katz?
Yes, we also have the public safety director, Chief Hagan, that could, call a meeting with the mayor as far as if we needed something that needed to be done right away. It's easier that we can get on Zoom and conduct business this way, where we don't have to worry about people getting into one place. So therefore, if anything did happen, we could get together immediately.
Mr. Pelisi?
Make sure I took it off mute. No, I agree with Councilwoman Katz and Councilman Yoder. I see no reason to extend the mayor's proclamation. I think, with what we've been through as a city and people, and with what we've learned, and we've learned the importance of, social distancing and whatnot. I think moving forward, we could allow the proclamation to cease. I think that the people can show that they're responsible enough to not just go crazy, and that they'll continue to practice safe social distancing and PPE as needed. So I don't see any reason that we would need to continue with this.
Thank you, Mr. Pelisi. Mr. Banks?
No, I tend to agree. Having more local autonomy is a lot better. So I'm glad for that. And, if things dissolve at a higher level than ours, we still have, the ability at our level.
Right.
The other side of this is, we've been doing this every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out the language for it on something that may not need to exist is kind of a silly exercise at this point.
Yep. I agree 100%. I think especially how our city and those who come into the city have responded throughout this whole thing under difficult circumstances for everyone. I think it's been exemplary, and it's really helped to hold it down when you consider the tragic circumstances of the nursing home in Jersey Shore, which it's not to discount that, but other than that, it's the activities and practices that the people have put into place or have obeyed or used that were put into place and suggested has really, I think, been successful. So I agree. So we can just, it expires today, so we'll just let it head off into the sunset and stay recorded in the annals of the history of the city of Williamsport. Mr. Yoder.
Procedural question for Norm. Since we had a motion, a second, and it's open for discussion, do we need to officially vote this down?
Or you can just officially vote to let the current one expire.
Okay, so will we need to make an amendment to our?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Would you like to make that amendment? Mr. Yoder?
Yeah, sure, I'll make an amendment to the motion to let the resolution expire today.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Frank, on the amendment to let it expire.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes. Motion to amend passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. And is that all we need then, Norm?
Now I'll vote back on the motion as amended.
Okay. So we have a motion and second. Any more discussion on the motion as amended now? Hearing none. Mrs. Frank, on the motion as amended, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank, and we won't hopefully see this again anytime soon. Let's move to item number 4, resolution authorizing the purchase of a Mitsubishi forklift. Mrs. Frank, in short form, please.
Resolution authorizing the purchase of a Mitsubishi FG30 forklift with upfits.
With upfits. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Winder.
Good evening. This resolution is to authorize the purchase of a Mitsubishi FG30 forklift for River Valley Transit in the amount of $31,271.78. This was part of a prior resolution for the approval of the CCA grant funding that council had approved a few weeks ago. This was reviewed by finance, moved forward with a positive recommendation. It is a key tool here at River Valley Transit for the movement of extremely heavy parts for the fleet of buses. And it would replace a 30-year-old forklift that we currently have. So as I said, it was passed forward with a positive recommendation by the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Winder. Mrs. Katz. Would you
Yes, this did come before Public Works, and it was passed on to full body of council with a positive recommendation. Adam, you told us it was a 40-year-old forklift.
Yep, I'm sorry.
30, 40, it's still it's been in use a long time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that were, you didn't state that this is also going to be transferred over to Streets and Parks, right?
Correct. I apologize. The old one will be transferred over to Streets and Parks because Streets and Parks utilizes it very, very limited amount of time. So with the life left in the 30-year-old forklift, we could definitely extend it a little longer over there.
And just to reiterate where the money is coming from for the forklift,
From the CCA, which is federal grant, I'm sorry, state grant funding.
state found grant funding. And how long will it take for the forklift to get here once you place the order?
Actually, I believe they have them in stock, and I guess I should have said the dealer that we are receiving it from is Equipment Depot, which is a local Williamsport business.
Great.
That's good. That's really good to hear. Plus it's co-stars too, so we don't have to worry about that. Yes, this is a piece of equipment that RVT needs. And since they're getting with grant money, like I said, this was passed on to a full body of council with a positive recommendation. Adam, is there any questions from you?
This was a pretty quick, easy discussion in finance, to your point, Councilwoman Katz. The only other thing that we quickly discussed was just making sure we understood the process of transferring it from RVT to Public Works, given that the original one was likely funded either through federal or state grants. So just making sure that we have the adequate paper trail noting the transfer, but pretty straightforward, pretty clean, very much needed.
Thank you. That was my question as well, so I'm glad that was covered. Anyone else on council? If not, we'll have the vote then, Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Mr. Alice.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. We'll move on to item 5, resolution authorizing RVT to engage RKL LLP for auditing services. And could you read that in short form, please? Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing River Valley Transit to engage RKL LLP for auditing services.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Winder again.
This resolution is to authorize RVT to utilize the services of RKL LLP for our fiscal 1920 audit year. It is in the amount of $35,000. They come highly recommended by Solicitor Jill Nagy, as well as PennDOT and multiple other transit authorities. The question that came up at finance was where in the budget was, what in the budget was a line item for this? And the budget line item number is 501070110. This was reviewed by finance and passed on with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Winder. Ms. Katz.
Yes, it did come to Finance Committee. We had a discussion on why the change, because we were using Baker Tilly, but Baker Tilly is still used in several aspects of the city, part of RVT, part of city for auditing. The one thing that really was kind of interesting is that Mr. Winder stated that the audit will be done in 10 days, which is really incredibly quick, which surprised us. And the other thing that we wanted to have a comparison from last year's audit to this year's audit. We wanted to see what the differences are at this point. And Mr. Winder said that he was working on that, and hopefully we would get that within, for the next finance meeting. Other than that, the $35,000 is a normal fee for any auditing firm. So, and that's in the budget. So we pass this on, like I said, to a full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Mrs. Katz. Mr. Yoder, anything else from finance?
No, yeah, the only follow-up question that we kind of discussed in finance, I think 2 years ago we did RKL, last year Baker Tilly, now RKL. Mr. Winder, were you ever able to kind of dig into why we've been bouncing back and forth over the past number of years, it seems, or not really?
Nobody wants to speculate on what the thoughts were from the prior administration. Without being able to ask that individual, we have no idea.
No, that's it.
Other questions tonight from council? Look forward to getting this audit, obviously. Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Mr. Alice.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. And we'll move to item 6. Resolution authorizing the execution of a sub-reciprocant monitoring agreement between the city and the county. Mrs. Frank, would you read that in short form, please?
Resolution authorizing the execution of a subrecipient monitoring agreement between the city of Williamsport and Lycoming County in conjunction with River Valley Transit's Unified Planning Work Program for FY 2020-2022.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion and a second?
so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. And Mr. Winder, you're up for that again.
Mr. Allison, I'm going to turn this one over to Todd Wright. He is the representative from RVT that attends the Watts meetings, so he will present this one to you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wright. Welcome tonight.
Good evening. This subrecipient monitoring agreement is renewed every 2 years for RVT's participation in Watts Unified Planning Work Program. For 20 to 22, the budget for the transit portion work is at $66,250. There is a local share requirement of 10% that is provided through RVT's annual operating budget that was approved by council back in December. With River Valley Transit being one of the lead organizations in the UPWP, we are the lead agency on a number of the transit related tasks. I think there's 4 subcategories that we are, from economic development, program management, find the other 2. The transportation development plan. Forgive me 1 second. I lost my page. And financial capacity planning. The agreement is for $103,000, and that's billed twice throughout the agreement, once at the end of FY21 and then again at the end of FY22. With that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. This was reviewed in finance.
Yes, this did come to finance, and we did pass it on with the full body of council with a positive recommendation. We did have discussion about this plan. It does come to us every 2 years, and as we discussed, Todd is taking this over. This is a new project for him, and this is almost a full-time job with everything that has to be reported all the time. I mean, some of the factors that he pointed out are, have to be on a daily basis almost, but it also is, these reports are required by the federal government. And also what you have with this is performance reports, you have ADA advisory committees, you have compliance reports. So there's a lot of work involved with this. And, I think, Randy and I remember seeing this every 2 years. So we've heard many explanations about this. So it's a lot of work, and Todd has shoes to fill at this point. But he said he's up for the challenge, and I think he'll do a really good job.
Thank you, Mrs. Katz. Mr. Yoder, anything to add to the finance meeting?
Nope, it was a pretty quick, easy discussion. Todd seems to have it in line and ready to roll, so we trust them to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Paludi or Mr. Banks?
I have the utmost confidence in his abilities.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking this over, Mr. Wright. With that, we'll have the vote. Mrs. Frank, please.
I think Janice is off right now.
Yeah, she dropped off, it looks like.
Okay.
Probably lost her Wi-Fi.
Oh, Miss,
Could we have Norm do it?
yes, we can have Norm do it.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Mr. Allison.
Yes,
I know I forgot somebody.
Mr. Banks.
Mr.
Me
Banks.
again. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Motion passes 5-0. That concludes that part of the agenda. We'll move to item 10, except for filing Williamsport Water and Sanitary meeting minutes of February 26, 2020 and April 22nd, 2020. Veterans Memorial Park Commission, May 4th, 2020. ERC meeting minutes of March 13th, 2020. Is there a motion on and a second?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion or corrections from council members? Hearing none, we'll have another vote, please, Mr. Lubin.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Banks,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Allison.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Lubin. Move to item 11, announcements. The next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be held on Thursday, June 25th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. We'll be meeting remotely for that as well. Upcoming meetings, Monday, June 15th at noon, the Recreation Commission. Tuesday, June 16th at 10 a.m. Blighted Property. 6:30 p.m. Harb. Thursday, June 18th, 10:30 a.m. Zoning Hearing Board, and 4 p.m. Board of Health, which I'm not sure that's going to happen.
The Board of Health meeting has been canceled.
That's canceled.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Nar. Friday, June 19th, 11 a.m. ERC. Tuesday, June 23rd, 11 a.m. Historical Preservation. 11:30 a.m. Public Safety Meeting. 1 p.m. Finance Meeting. These are all on June 23rd, Tuesday. And 2:30 p.m. Public Works Meeting. Wednesday, June 24th, 11:30 a.m. Redevelopment Authority. Before we go any farther, I'm going to announce we're having an executive session tonight to discuss legal negotiation items. So comments from council tonight. Mr. Yoder.
Well, I don't know if it matters at this point, Chris. Janice is getting back in. She's in the waiting room, FYI. Just a quick question, Mayor Slaughter. I saw your proclamation or rescinding the proclamation on the open containers. I had a few constituent questions asking for a little bit more clarity and rationale as to why. Anything you can offer for the public to provide some insight, I think would be valuable.
Sure. So I had some businesses call and say it wasn't working out as intended. The whole goal of it was to enhance business, and some had folks showing up with their own and enjoying the atmosphere, so to speak, and never purchasing anything from the local establishment. So that's not the goal of. The goal wasn't to bring your own to the place so you can enjoy the atmosphere but never purchase anything. The goal was to go support our local businesses, obviously. So what we decided to do then was just to put the lid on it for now, and then go back to the drawing board, so to speak, to see how can we reword it or rework it. And I'm in collaboration with local businesses and others to see how can we put something in place that actually enhances business and doesn't necessarily hinder business, where folks are just showing up, enjoying the area, so to speak, but never purchasing anything. So had a number of businesses reach out to me and say, Derek, is there any way you could reword it a little bit? It's not really helping us when they show up and don't buy one thing from us, but they're still in our area. So that was kind of the thinking behind it. I didn't want to hinder the businesses. We want to help the businesses. And so if I can reword it in a way, or we can rework it in a way, I'm open to any suggestions. I'm reviewing a number of other cities and kind of what they're doing. Some people have shared some suggestions with me that seem to be working. So if we can, put something together that would work here from Williamsport, that's really what the goal is.
No, I appreciate that. That makes some sense. Chief, were we running into any potential public safety issues over the 2 weeks that we had that proclamation out there? Did we see a lot of cooperation with the public from a, interaction perspective? You're muted. There you are.
No. Everyone was cooperative. This is not an ordinance that we do much enforcement on anyway. We did not see any rise in that. I think people were just happy to be out and be able to get together. So we didn't see much of a change.
And to be clear, I didn't really get many public safety complaints. It was more of it's not really helping our business complaints, so to speak.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council this evening? I had the opportunity to talk to former councilman Don Noviello this weekend, and they had a tournament this past weekend at Elm Park under the restrictions, but I'll let him tell the story, but it did bring business into the city. So every little bit helps for sure. And they brought some substantial amount of business, so it's good. Any items from the administration tonight?
I would just note that former Mayor Lucchese did pass away. I just wanted to extend my thoughts and prayers to his family and friends and relatives. I had the opportunity to meet him once, very briefly, actually back in January of this year. I spoke to him for a few minutes. He gave me some insight, his point of view, and it was a very nice conversation, a very brief conversation. But so I just wanted to, just say that, and that we're thinking about him and his family during these times.
Thank you, Mayor Slaughter. Thank you for bringing that up, because it had occurred to me as well that being fortunate enough to be here and for his 2 terms, being born and raised here, and a longtime businessman who was important in the community, but then stepped forward to be mayor and had 2 very successful terms. He could have easily gotten a 3rd had he wanted, but he moved on. But he helped build the city back then. And we are sending our condolences to the family. So not, I guess we'll move on to public comments. Mr. Lubin, do we have any tonight?
Yes, there are three public comments. The first one is from Karen Koch. It's addressed to President of Council. As I sit in my office looking at the photo of the Gannett Fleming accessible ramp design given to me in 2018, I have to wonder what kind of celebration the city is planning for the 30th anniversary of the ADA. Will there be any recognition of these rights for people with disabilities? Will the administration that prays to God for guidance and salutes the American flag at the start of meetings recognize this landmark civil rights victory? As I dust the photo of the ramp, the one we were assured would be constructed by fall of 2018, I wonder how the God-fearing Americans continue to disregard equality. City Hall for all. The other also is from Karen Koch and Jody Bainey. The two statements or emails that we received were identical. And it's President of the Council. When will the city make City Hall accessible? The ramp and elevator need fixing immediately so all can have access to City Hall. When will the city be approving the negotiation agreement? 3, isn't 30 years enough time waiting for accessibility? Number 4, City Hall for all. 5, how will the city be celebrating 30 years of the ADA by still violating the laws? And that's all that I received.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lubin. I just, something just caught my ear there. Mr. Winder, our elevator is operable, correct? And
Correct.
certified with the state and past certification, correct?
Correct. It is 100% certified.
Okay, I just thought that was an item that needed to be addressed. Thank you. We have no other comments from the public, so I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved.
There's a move in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.